Beauty is in the eye of the beholder. Need that Cashapp, man. I just have to ask. I would. See what we got going on here. I don't think so. All right. Got another 15 seconds before showtime. Sports for Real with Coach Hall. Still got over a week before the Super Bowl kicks off in New Orleans. Right now it looks like a lot of people are all excited about the Kansas City Chiefs and their possibility of going three-peat. But I think it's a little bit early to be trying to decide on who is going to win the Super Bowl. But there are some early lines out on this game, and we'll look it up real quick and see what they're trying to say. All right, let's see what we got here. That's not telling me anything. I don't see anything just yet. But anyway, we're not concerned about that. But again, as this time of the year, it's always a lot of excitement as to which teams are going to win these games. And people, they never even watch NFL or football in general until the Super Bowl. And then you think they were experts based on what everybody else is talking about, but they have no idea what's really taking place. But that's people nowadays. So let's see here real quick what the betting line is. Okay, right now the Chiefs are giving a point and a half, so they're a point and a half favorite over Philadelphia. And a lot of people are romantically inclined to believe that the Chiefs are actually going to win their third straight Super Bowl. Okay. Broccoli. Ice Cube. I don't know what you're talking about, kid. See what we got here. A bunch of idiots. I got time for this, man. Ice Cube. Thoughts on Floyd. These nuts out of here, man. All right. But anyway, a lot of people are romantically inclined to believe that Kansas City is going to win this third straight Super Bowl. And given the fact that a lot of people think that these games are slanted in favor of the Chiefs, anything close, they may give the referees a chance to turn the tide, kind of like what they did against Buffalo. I am not saying that had Buffalo got that first down, they would have went on to win the game, but I am telling you that had they made the correct call and give Buffalo the first down as they earned, they had momentum going, and they were going to drive down and run that clock down, and the way they were moving the football, they were going to score. And because I think they would have scored, they would have knocked Kansas City off. But when you don't call it properly, you give the team momentum to build on turning the game around, which is what Kansas City did. So Philadelphia was victim to those bad calls last time they played in Super Bowl 57, and a couple of pass interference calls that cost that game. And I think that Kansas City's time is going to run out on these calls if they're expecting that to get them through to another championship. John Malkovich says, "Hi, Mr. Bristol, what's going on, man?" Yeah, I'm all right, man. I'm just sitting here talking about the Cowboys today. You know, a lot of teams, a lot of players, I should say a lot of fans, whether you like the Cowboys or not, they do have a lot of fans, and they like to talk about their team. They wear their colors. I don't care if you're overseas somewhere, you're probably going to run into somebody with a Cowboy shirt on. That's unfortunate for them, but you got to let them form their own opinions, and we'll roll with that. I don't know what you're talking about, man. Oh, you from Crimea, Delixia, I believe that's the Crimea. Okay. All right. Well, I appreciate you chiming in, Malkovich. But the Cowboy fans, they're kind of up in an uproar right now because of the new hire. All throughout the coaching search, we heard certain names like Deion Sanders, you know, kind of as an afterthought. And then you had, should they have kept McCarthy? Then they were courting Kellen Moore and a couple other guys that coaching high school football. Yes, I understand. Markovich in Russia, we appreciate you stopping in. I heard of the Crimea. And all of a sudden, after dragging their legs for a couple of weeks, they come up with the name Brian Schottenheimer. Brian Schottenheimer was on the staff of McCarthy. So nobody even talked about him. Now he's bounced around the league, and you know his dad is Marty Schottenheimer, so it's not like he's unfamiliar with what's going on, but he just didn't jump out as a top candidate, and all of a sudden he gets hired as the Cowboys' job. So I just happened to see yesterday, I hadn't made any comments about Schottenheimer. I noticed it was an odd hire, but I hadn't said anything up to this point. But I saw that Michael Irvin, he has a podcast now, and he was making his comments known about the opportunity that the Cowboys missed. All right. Carl, always conspiracy theory about what Kansas City have a great football team is the reason where they are. I'm so tired of excuses. It's sad. Blame everyone but a good team. I ain't blamed anybody. I just made a comment about what I thought about that particular first down. I also prefaced that statement by saying that I'm not sure Buffalo would have won that game had they got the first down, but they did have the momentum, and they were about to punch it in. I never said that Kansas City didn't deserve to win or they weren't good enough, but a lot of people are, and they're tired of hearing that Kansas City crap. But going back to Michael Irvin, he kind of mentioned Kansas City, not in the fact that they're winning, but the fact that the Taylor Swift thing that they have alone, now they have Caitlin Clark alone. He's concerned that the Cowboys, if they don't get their act together, they will no longer be considered America's team. Well, I kind of agree with some things he's saying about that, but they coined the phrase 50, 60 years ago, so I don't think they're going to lose that tag. But right now, whoever's winning the most is America's team. And that's what Irvin was saying. With Mahomes, they're going to his 5th Super Bowl. They're doing what the Cowboys haven't done. Hell, they haven't even been to the conference championship in over 30 years. And this is the thing he was talking about. He's blaming Jerry Jones for making a bad hire. He gave several reasons why he think that was a bad hire. First, he said that they hadn't been in the championship for so long because basically the owner, he wants all the credit, and the moves he's made over the years have been to the detriment of the organization. Well, you cannot argue with the fact that the Cowboys, they hadn't been to the championship, the conference championship in over 30 years. And it's because the moves that he made. And along with that, he tends to hire or work with people either he knows closely or somebody that's well-known like a Bill Parcells, but they're retreads. They tend to miss the big picture when it comes to the decisions that they make. And in this case, he's claiming that they made a mistake by not hiring Deion Sanders, an outsider, as opposed to an insider, Brian Schottenheimer, especially somebody who was not on the radar. In his opinion, he's saying that Schottenheimer is just an extension of what you had before. These guys weren't doing the things necessary to get over the top to be called champions. And now that you bring a guy that's already been on the inside, when he tries to tighten down the screws and make things run right, he's going to meet with resistance. I understand exactly what he's saying because I've seen that myself. Guys don't tend to change with people that are similar to them hanging around. So his point was you need to bring in an outsider who is up to date on things, who's going to get these guys motivated to play. And in his opinion, it is Deion Sanders. Now, I understand his reasoning behind that. But then again, how motivated would Deion be to run the Cowboys? Is it for the recognition? He wouldn't be able to immediately, unless he can force some kind of trade, he wouldn't be able to get his sons right away. So what would be the advantage of Deion going to the Cowboys? Now, he would change a lot of things. He would do a lot of the things that he's doing in Colorado. He's going to get the right people to work with him, and he will win. But how motivated will he be to stay there is the question that I have about that. But I just don't think he would have been the right one because I don't think he's going to stick around very long. That's the only reason why I say I would not hire him. But the bigger issue surrounding the Cowboys in this situation was the fact that it seems to be a split in the leadership of the Cowboys about who they wanted to take as a coach. Jerry's son, Steven, wanted or was enamored with the idea of bringing in Deion Sanders, but Jerry did not. And because Jerry did not want him, it validated my point. His personality will outsize Jerry's personality, and that would never work because we know that Jerry, over the years, he has wanted the credit. He wants the credit of the organization. Which brings me back to another point that Irvin made. He said that before New England's dynasty, and now that you have Kansas City with a dynasty, the Cowboys were what Kansas City and New England became. They were that before that. And he was correct. He had won 3 out of 4 Super Bowls. They were on a roll. They had a young nucleus. They had a good program together. But Jones ruined that by running off Jimmy Johnson. And yes, Barry Switzer came in. He won a championship. But that was Jimmy's foundation. But once that ended, what have the Cowboys done since? So the common denominator in the Cowboys' failures has been Jerry Jones. So until Jones stepped aside or is no longer in the picture, the Cowboys may continue to struggle. And Irvin's point was that he's concerned that the Cowboys, that America's tag doesn't apply to them anymore, and it will not apply to them until things change. And it will not change if you're going to hire from within of an organization that wasn't running right in the locker room all along. So he's not saying that he can't win. He's not saying that Schottenheimer ultimately won't be a good coach. But he's saying that he knows people. And I agree with what he's saying, because when you have guys that are as part of a group and used to doing things a certain way, and then you take a person in the group, put them in charge and try to change things and crack the whip, then you're going to have a split in the locker room. What you basically have there is a bunch of guys who are really not committed to winning a championship. They talking lip service, but they're not really putting in the work. You got to do everything that is necessary to be a champion. You got to go to these meetings. You got to think and breathe football, and you got to prepare as if you're going to do your job to the utmost perfection, and you're going to trust that everybody around you is going to do the same thing. Well, that's hard to do if you don't have somebody cracking the whip to get you moving in that direction. And by bringing in Schottenheimer, who's on the inside, that wouldn't be a good fit. That was his point. Now, again, it doesn't mean that Schottenheimer couldn't be a good coach. Like I said, he may have been plotting all along about what he would do once he became a head coach. As you remember, his dad was a winning football coach. So it's not like he can't do it or has a blueprint of how to put together a team. But he's going to have to turn that roster over to the point where he's got guys that's going to follow him. But if he's going to have his buddies in there, which some of them are, it's going to be hard to turn that environment around. And that's pretty much what Irvin is saying. But Deion, like I say, the only question I would have about him is how dedicated would he be to sticking around in the NFL for a period of time. He had already mentioned that the only reason he would even consider a pro job would be because of his sons. Now, if that's the case, if he really feels that way, with his son, the quarterback, he may not be there on the board to draft at, I think the Cowboys draft like number 12, so that would defeat the whole purpose of that. But I think ultimately, to me, it would have been a bad hire because Jones' personality is a stark contrast to what Deion has, and he's going to have a big following, and I don't think Jerry can be able to deal with that for so long. So you might have a good team, but if the office is not happy with what's going on, it doesn't matter what Deion, how many games he won on the field, it's just not going to sit right with Jerry. So I think it's best that they don't even start that because of what's going to end up happening. And some people are just like that. They just rather be getting all the credit, and it's his team, and he can do what he want to do. So, but a lot of owners you never even hear from, man. And consider that when you think about what's going on in Dallas. Tank and Arch Manning, 1Z loss. What do you mean? Oh, Tank for Arch Manning. What do you mean tank? Tank for Arch Manning. All right, let's see. Did the Cowboys hire the right coach? I got 6 votes in so far. A lot of people say no. Well, if not Schottenheimer, who do you think the Cowboys should have hired as a coach? There's not a whole lot of great choices out there. I think Pete Carroll might have been a good hire. They hired him at the Raiders. He could at least been somebody who set a foundation for the Cowboys. But I think with his age at 73, I don't think that Jerry would have been interested in that. But most of his hires over the years have been people from the internal, guys that he can control. The guys he knows that's going to be loyal and lockstep with him. And as long as I'm going to tell you this. Let's just say it this way. I told you guys, if you come on here and you criticize any of these players, and these players are making all that money, even though they don't win a championship, I think what they would do, they're going to go and log on to their online financial accounts. They're going to look and see how many zeros they got. They're going to look around and see if their family is well fed. They're going to log off and go on about their business. They don't give a damn about what you think about whether they won or lost. And I think it's the same feeling about whether they ever win a championship, because the bottom line is to take care of your family. And if they got all those zeros in the bank, at the end of the day, they might want to win a championship, but everything is about money now. And who really cares if they win a championship? And I think that's what the bottom line is. And Jerry knows that because his team is making money hand over fist. And even though he might have a burning desire to win another championship, if it doesn't happen, he's still making billions. So what does he really care at the end of the day? All right. Once he lose all the games to draft Arch. No, man. You think Arch Manning is that good, man? I don't think so. He's got a little spring in his legs and he can run around the corner and maybe get you a first down or two. But I don't think he was better than Quinn Ewers. And I think Ewers is just a better quarterback, more experience. Arch will have his day next year and was going to pretty much have the same schedule that they had this year, spent around. And Texas, again, they will always be a threat because they have speed to run. But I don't know if they can keep the same pace that they came this year. It's the same thing as Missouri and Texas A&M. When they came into the SEC, they did well because they played a little bit different style of play, and they had the advantage because the SEC people always thought that they were superior to everybody else. So they didn't really care nothing about a Big 12 team coming to the SEC. Hey, that's easy work, right? Well, I've seen 3 of them come in, and all 3 of them did pretty well, which always validated my point. All those college conferences are set up the same. You're going to have 2 or 3 teams at the top. You're going to have 2 or 3 teams at the bottom. Everybody else is going to be in the middle. And they all can play with each other. The only reason the SEC has that gaudy non-conference record is because they pay these schools that they're supposed to beat 2 or 3 times a year, pay them a couple $1 million to come, be a homecoming type opponent. You blow them out, fans are happy, and they say, look how great the SEC is. But when you take the best teams and play them against each other, and you put them in a bracket, now you see what's really going to happen. And now that you got an extended bracket, the SEC, they got a team into the semifinals, but that team came from the Big 12. So in essence, even though they're in the SEC, they still were basically a Big 12 product. Now, next year, they become more and more SEC, just like Oklahoma. But in reality, these are Big 12 teams. So the SEC, they really didn't get past the second round. So all that illusion of being great kind of goes out the window. But you do have to give the SEC credit. Those top 2 or 3 teams they had in the last 10 years, they've been the best in college football. But that doesn't mean the entire conference is better. And that's the image that they try to put out there. So Manning, he'll do well for himself, but I don't think the Cowboys going to take anything to get him as a quarterback, especially after they paid Dak Prescott all that money. Now, what they're probably going to do, they're going to have Prescott restructure that contract so they can get some better players in there. And also you have, what's his name? Linebacker, Penn State, number 11. I can't think of his name right now. I'm drawing a blank. But he is up for a contract extension, and they're looking at paying him about $35 million. So a lot of things are going to be taking place in the Cowboy land, and a lot of people are going to be talking about them. But the question is, did they hire the right coach? I don't think they did. I'm kind of half in agreement with Michael Irvin. I'm not sure if Deion was the right choice, but with the options that they have out there, it probably would be best to bring in somebody that's outside the organization and outside the NFL. There's not a whole lot of difference in the way that teams are run in the NFL and college. So Deion, he's shown that he can run a college program. He's shown that he can get the people to work with him. So I'm not saying that he couldn't coach that team, but it's the personalities that the Cowboys have with Jerry Jones. It doesn't fit with Deion because Deion's going to have a outsized personality over Jones, and Jones couldn't deal with that. That's why you have a split in management where Jerry, he want what he want. He want internal. He is making the same decisions he's made always because he feels he's been successful at it because they're making money. But in reality, the football side of it, he has thrown that team off track, man. And one great point that I will point out by Irvin, and no, this is not a promotion for Michael Irvin, but he made some great points. He brought up the fact that Sears could have been Amazon, but Sears is not Amazon because Sears didn't want to give up the idea of the catalog. In a digital environment, why would you continue to print these books when you can change your whole format and keep moving forward? Basically, what Amazon did is what Sears was doing with the catalogs, is the point he was making. And I never thought about that until he said that. And he was absolutely correct. But his overall point is you cannot keep doing the same thing in an old-fashioned, in a sped-up, fast-paced world like we have now. Why be analog? We can go digital and get somebody who's on top of that, like a Deion Sanders, instead of reaching back to somebody that's old and stiff, or young and stiff, in this case with a Brian Schottenheimer. You're basically stuck in the mud. So you basically, the Cowboys are doing what Sears did by not updating to the future. Now again, I don't know if Deion would have been the best in that situation because like I said, it would have been a personality conflict with him and Jerry, and I think that wouldn't have lasted the whole season. And for Deion's sake, you don't have to deal with that crap. He's doing well in Colorado. I question whether he would stay there. It looked like to me he's going to prove me wrong, but he had to do it. But every step of the way, he's been right there for his sons. Now, one thing about him staying in Colorado, he has a chance to run his own program. He doesn't have an owner staring over his shoulder and trying to get all of the credit for what's taking place with the team, and so on and so forth, with what's going on in Dallas. So he's better off where he is. The question is, how long is he going to stay there? I don't know. Anyway, this is the kind of talk that you're going to hear over the next couple of weeks because we still got almost 2 weeks until the Super Bowl, or a week and a half until the Super Bowl comes up, and got to have something to talk about. Anything to start from talking about the NBA. At least we got the NCAA tournament coming up. That's always exciting after the first week. You get some upsets in the first round, but the way they keep extending that program, they're watering down the product by adding all these different games, and I can't keep up anymore. The 64 teams was perfect, except for the fact that if they want to improve the tournament, instead of saying all these teams that are on the bubble, and then when you find out they get a 12 or 13 seed, how could they have been on the bubble and you give them a 13 seed? If they were truly on the bubble, then they should have been 15 or 16 seed. And if you got these big names, say a Big Ten team that's on the bubble, and they go play a number 1 seed, then you would have far more upsets of these 16s and over 1s than what you do now. Because the way they do the tournament, they just pretty much give number 1 seeds a easy ride into the Sweet 16. And if those teams are truly on the bubble, they can make that tournament better by putting them down as a 16 seed and make those number 1 seeds play right out of the gate. You see what that number 1 seed did for football in Oregon. That extra time off killed them. And at least with basketball, they get a chance to play what everybody else plays. There's no sitting around waiting. But I think that same model should be taken to football and extended out to 16 teams. Therefore, you don't have that long bye. And that rust is what killed Oregon. And by the time they got the Malays out, they're down 34-0. And we turning out the lights and sweeping up by that time. So it's too late, man. Okay, let's go to the poll here. Got a couple more votes. Still 88% of you are saying that the Cowboys hired the wrong coach. But I asked the question, who should they have hired? If not Dion, then who? Pete Carroll went to the Raiders. You got a lot of coordinators that get all these interviews. And who would you hire? Now, speaking of coaches, you know that the Jaguars are embroiled in that controversy with the Bucs. The Bucs feel like they got done dirty by what happened with Liam Cohen. He interviewed with Jacksonville, and he turned them down because of Trent Baalke. He didn't want to work with Baalke. So he goes back and negotiates the highest contract for an offensive coordinator with Tampa. They're looking for him to come in and sign the paperwork, but he snuck back to Jacksonville because the Jags had an emergency meeting with Baalke and fired him. He said that he had a mutual agreement, but that wasn't mutual. He found out what everybody had been saying was true, that the reason that they can't land a good coach was because of Baalke. So the man had to go. Once that was announced and they got Cohen to come back under cover of darkness, agree to become the head coach, and the Bucs sitting there holding the bag because he agreed in principle about taking that offensive coordinator job and the pay raise, and he just crossed them. So they're not too happy about that in Tampa. And then he comes in and he gives a corny press conference. And when you start talking the way he talks, you wonder if they got the right man. But he did say that he's, without saying it, he's going to elevate Trevor Lawrence's game. We'll see. Now, the Jets, their issue is what would they do with Aaron Rodgers? Well, Rodgers, damn, I hate that. Hold on. I got to move around. I'm in one of these places where they got those lights on the timer. So I got to go over here and turn the lights back on. So Aaron Rodgers is the question that the Jets have to deal with because they don't know what he's going to do with his age. And with Aaron Glenn, they wanted to know what he thought about his plans for Aaron Rodgers. He tried to evade the question, but then he came out and said that it's not about Aaron Rodgers, it's about the roster. Essentially, he's saying that we're not going to let this guy run the team. And if he fits into our roster plans moving forward, then Aaron Rodgers would be a part of the team. But he won't be the one behind the scenes making decisions on who they bring in. And what he's alluding to was maybe he got some coaches fired. He was the reason why they got Devontae Adams, so on and so forth. I think Rodgers can still help a team if he's running the right system. He's got the right people up front to protect him. He can be effective. But I think he would have been great had he not got hurt the year before. Once that edge blew off, it hadn't been the same. So it might just be best for him to either hang it up or go try another team. But sometimes timing is everything, and timing was all right for the Jets last year. But when he got hurt, that kind of ruined everything. So you wonder if the Jets are snake bitten with this quarterback situation. But NFL that goes around in circles, they could be the best team next year, or they could be one of the worst again. It all depends on what kind of bounces you get during the season. So I don't know about the Raiders. I believe they're going to draft a quarterback, and Tennessee, I don't know if they're going to pick up Travis Hunter or they're going to pick up a quarterback. If they get a quarterback, it's going to come down to Cam Ward or Shedeur Sanders. But I think that you're probably going to end up with Travis Hunter, because you can go and get a free agent quarterback, and Hunter can help you on both sides of the ball. Not that he can play full time on both sides of the ball. That's probably what he's going to try to do, but he can at least give them some pep on both sides of the ball. So I think Tennessee is going to take that 2-for-1, come up with a free agent quarterback, and go from there. But I don't know about Shedeur, where he may end up. It would have been interesting to see if Dion had taken that job, what kind of deals could he have made behind the scenes to get him as a quarterback. But that, again, would have caused more problems because you got Dak Prescott still on the roster. So what are you going to do? You're going to have Shedeur sit for 3 or 4 years? That's not usually the way things are done now, especially with the success of Jaden Daniels in Washington. You bring a kid in from college and he runs essentially the same system you ran in college, then he can be effective. Daniel showed you that. If you compare him to what Caleb Williams did, Caleb Williams had to learn a whole new offense, and it hurt him. Daniels, all he had to do was learn the speed of the game, and the NFL coverages pick up on what they were trying to do to him, and he was going to advance, and you see that occurring. Kind of like what RG3 did. RG3 did the same thing. They brought in a similar offense, and once he started to learn the speed of the game and what they were doing to him, he was effective. Injuries killed his career, or he would have been effective with what he was doing. So it's going to be interesting to see how these teams play it out leading up to the draft. But this is just something to talk about until the Super Bowl. But right now, Kansas City is installed as a 1.5 favorite. But I don't know. I kind of like that look Philadelphia's got. And if they're able to run the football, it's going to be a rough one. That's the difference in Philadelphia 2 years ago as opposed to now. They didn't have Saquon Barkley. If that kid is able to run that football, it's going to be a problem for the Chiefs. And they got that rugged defense that can stop him. They have the right mindset. They're going to approach him the same way they would approach Baltimore, trying to stop it between the tackles first, make Hurts beat you. As you saw with Washington, if that initial throw wasn't there, he's going to search around looking for somewhere to go, and he's going to throw it out of bounds a lot of time. So if you can stop their rhythm, you can hurt Philadelphia. But it all starts with the run, and I think that's what Kansas City is going to have to do. They're going to have to stop Barkley first. But a 1.5, I don't know. I just like the way Philadelphia is looking right now, and we're not worried about the betting line so much. I'm just putting that information out there, and usually those guys in Vegas have pretty good ideas about how things are going to unfold. Why is that? I don't know, but they're real good at what they do. So we'll talk more about that later. But I just wanted to pose a question. Do you think the Cowboys got the right person? And a lot of people are saying no. Prominent Cowboys like Michael Irvin and other people, they don't think so either. They think it's a bad hire because it's going to reduce the discipline that's needed to win championships. And right now the Cowboys, in his opinion, they don't have it. And because they don't have it, you should have brought in somebody else from the outside to instill discipline and be able to maintain it. And you can't do that if you hire from within. That is a perfectly understandable point of view. Whether Schottenheimer can overcome that or not remains to be seen. But it's something to talk about. But anyway, I got to go to work. I appreciate you guys chiming in with me. Be back on, if not later on today, I'll be back on in the morning and have some more updated sports talk for you. So have a great day wherever you are in the world. I appreciate you chiming in with me. And until next time, I got to go to work. So I'm out.